Hi everyone, welcome to episode 7 of my frugal living tips. So in this episode it's going to be a little bit different than the usual ones because Christmas is almost upon us. So I thought it would be a good time to talk about Christmas and perhaps give 5 tips for how to make Christmas a bit more doable this year, because obviously we're all feeling the pinch and Christmas is one of those times of the year where you can overspend. There's so much temptation. I would imagine if you have kids, it's really difficult. I don't have any children. I did used to work in a school though. I was a teacher, so I do know what they get like around Christmas. And yeah, I will chat a bit about my thoughts about it, and do let me know in the comments below your thoughts. What are you doing this Christmas? Are you going all out, or are you cutting back a bit? Now, my husband Martin and I decided many years ago that we were going to opt out of the kind of mad consumerism that is Christmas, and we stopped buying loads of presents for each other. We stopped buying lots of Christmas food, because actually neither of us are particularly fond of turkey roast, and I remember spending a lot of money one year on a great big turkey and cooking it all up and sort of saying, do you know what, I would have really much rather had a piece of steak. And Martin was like, well, why don't we next year then? And it kind of evolved from there. So we totally do what we want to do at Christmas. We have done lots of fun things over the years. Instead of buying presents for each other, we tend to do things. So we've had meals out, we've been away. We stayed one year in a shepherd's hut and we had a sandwich on top of Glastonbury Tor. We've had beach barbecues. We've been to Dartmoor and had a barbecue on Christmas Day instead of the usual thing. Last year it tipped it down with rain all day, so we stayed in, but I think we had fish fingers and scampi for Christmas dinner last year, so you can see that we do try to do it differently. This year we're actually going to be in Fuerteventura, so I have no idea what we'll be doing actually on Christmas Day. And in Spain they tend to celebrate King's Day in January rather than Christmas, so any Christmas festivities over there will be aimed at the English. So, and I've never been there before in December, so I can't wait to see what happens. And I will be doing Vlogmas, so hopefully you'll join me for that. I do love Christmas. I have very happy memories as a child at Christmas. I think back then it was simpler, more traditional, and it didn't start so early. I think for kids nowadays it must be really hard. We went to the range the other day and I was completely overwhelmed by, there was just rows and rows and rows of Christmas stuff, and there was Christmas duvets and Christmas cushions, and every single item that you could possibly need in the kitchen was Christmas, along with all the decorations, stockings, presents, advent calendars, Christmas Eve boxes, trees, yeah, it goes on. And I felt extremely overwhelmed and a little bit sad actually, if I'm honest, that we in this country now have become so materialistic that already in October there's just so much. But anyway, don't get me started on that. We're still going to have a lovely Christmas. My first sort of piece of advice, I suppose, is to decide on your budget and stick to it. And if that means buying less stuff, that's what you need to do. What you don't want to do, and I think this is really important this year, is come January, you've really overspent, and then, the food prices are going to keep going up, etc., etc. You don't want to overspend on Christmas. So if it means buying, slightly less stuff, then so be it. And I guess you could try and start now to buy things if that's what you want to do. But actually talk to your family and friends. You know, if you've got a large family, could you do something like a Secret Santa where you only end up buying one gift for each other? If your family like to buy a lot of gifts, could you make sure that they're useful things, you know, that you actually need and they actually need? Could you exchange, instead of actual things, could you sort of exchange, you know, doing things or favours for people? Or there's always homemade gifts as well, and there's lots and lots of videos and books and things that you could get if you're a crafter. Then loads of stuff, or there's homemade edible gifts are always nice. If you've got kids, you know, you could get them making stuff, which I think is really special. You could also look for gifts in charity shops, which you know, is reusing stuff. Some of the zero waste sites that I follow, they a lot of them will do, especially with children, will do things like they only have a rule that they get like 5 presents, and there's a little saying, I think it's something you want, something you need, something to eat, something to wear, something to read, or it's something like that anyway. So you could have a go at doing something like that with your kids, with your family, and don't be afraid to talk to them. Obviously don't be doom and gloom about it, but just say, you know, there's not quite so much money this year, so you know, there are going to be a few less presents, but you know, we're still going to have a really good time. And I think if you've got a positive mindset about it'll be okay. I mean, I think if it was me and I had kids, I might do something like trying to do like a really traditional Christmas, how it used to be, and get them really involved. I mean, I can remember thinking it was the most wonderful thing ever when me and my sister used to be only about a week before Christmas, but Mum used to let us help her write the Christmas cards, and we would then choose like, I don't know, 5 or 6 each, and we'd either walk around the village or drive if it was a bit too far to walk, and we would take it in turns to get out the car or to run up whoever it was drive and post the Christmas card. And I can still remember it, having a little bit of an argument with my sister who wanted to do which one, but we worked it out eventually. And that was something I remember, a really simple thing. And one year Mum got us colour in cards to do, and we thought that was amazing. We really loved that. So sometimes the really simple things can actually be quite joyful. And I think kids, I don't know, I mean, I don't have any kids, but I remember years ago when my niece and nephew were young, we met up with a family friend at a place called Campton Castle. And I went with my niece, my youngest nephew, and the family friend's daughter to the toilet. And they'd all been to the toilet, and I said to them, go and sit outside and I'll meet you in a minute. So they were all sat on this little wall outside where the toilet was, and there was a little kind of like castle gift shop, and it had the usual tat in it. There was like some swords and some fairy princess things, I don't know why. Anyway, as I was coming out of the toilet, I heard the family friend's daughter say to my niece and nephew, let's ask your auntie to buy us whatever it is she wanted. I think it was the fairy princess. And my niece turned round to her and she said, Auntie Emma won't buy us anything. And the other little girl went, oh. And then my niece said, but she will play kings and queens with us. And they all went, wow, will she? That's amazing, yeah. And my nephew was like, yeah, come on, Auntie Emma, let's go and play kings and queens. And that really stuck with me, actually, because before that, I used to buy my nieces and nephews a lot of stuff. I used to go crazy because I thought that's what they wanted and I thought that's what they liked. But hearing that conversation amongst them, I realised that actually what they wanted was my time and was for me to play with them, undivided attention. We had a great afternoon, we played Kings and Queens. I was exhausted by the end of it, but I'll never forget that day, and it changed my mindset as to the fact that they didn't actually want me to buy them a lot of stuff. They were really happy with time. So it's worth bearing things like that in mind. On to my next little tip, I suppose, is, again, if you've got kids, you can get them involved in this, but with Christmas decorations, instead of buying a load of new ones, again, look back at the traditional kind of ones. Homemade paper chains. I mean, how easy and cool are they? We used to love making them. I'm guessing kids would probably enjoy that now. When I worked at the school, we did some Christmas decorations and they seemed to really enjoy it. We did paper chains. We also did popcorn, where you pop up a load of corn and then you thread it onto just cotton, sewing thread with a needle, and you make strings of popcorn, and that looks really lovely, really effective. I have also made in the past, out of scraps of fabric paper chain. They're not paper chains, are they? Fabric chains. So I've sewn them all together, and of course they last for years and years, and they can look really effective as well. What else have I written down here? Those snowflakes, where you used to get the pieces of paper and fold them up and then cut bits out of them, and it makes snowflakes. Anything like that is so lovely, and I'm sure there's lots more ideas now online as well, but it doesn't have to be anything major, but that can save a bit of money as well. You can also go out foraging for like greens, holly, ivy, pine cones, anything like that, and make Yule log, get a big log, make a Yule log. I went to a Yule log workshop one year and we all had the most amazing time with all this greenery and a few candles and a glue gun, and we all made these amazing Yule logs, and it absolutely fascinated me, the whole thing, because we were learning as well about Yule, and that kind of thing really interests me. I know I say this all the time, but there's a great book called The Natural Year by a woman called Jane Alexander, and in it there's a lot of stuff about like traditional holidays and things like that, and why we do what we do now. So if you're interested, look up things like that. I must admit, when I was working last week, one of the people that we go to, we just go and chat to her. She doesn't need any care, so we go and chat to her. She lives alone. She's about 90, I think, and bright as a button, and we were chatting to her about the type of cooking that she used to do when she was younger, and it was absolutely fascinating. And if I get the chance, I'm going to ask her about what Christmas used to be like and what it meant back then. And I think, if your children have got grandparents or anything like that, get them to ask, what it used to be like, because I think it didn't used to cost as much because it wasn't so materialistic. Anyway, I've gone completely off on a tangent now. I do apologise. So yeah, tip number 3, don't be afraid to do things differently if you need to this year. Make new traditions. Don't worry what everyone else is doing or what the shops are doing, what the adverts are telling you to do. Do what you want to do. If you want to make everybody a bag of peppermint creams for their present, then do it. And that's absolutely fine. I think I'm going to have to make some peppermint creams this year, actually. I might look up some other traditional kind of Christmassy sweets, because it does sound quite good fun, I have to say. And again, it's the kind of thing I remember doing as a kid. Anyway, so yeah, that's my 3rd tip, is don't be afraid to do things differently. Make new traditions, talk to your family, be honest, be open with each other and your friends, and you might just find that actually if you say to one of your friends, I haven't really got that much money for presents this year, they might be quite relieved because they'll probably be in the same boat as you. You know, we are all in this together. And again, talking about doing things differently with regards to food, again, you don't have to eat what you're told to eat. You don't have to eat any Christmassy foods if you don't want to. Obviously, if you like them, then, you know, go ahead and get them if you can afford it. But if you want something a bit simpler, then go for it. Again, if there's a lot of you in your family, could you ask everybody to bring something and have like a potluck lunch? I love potluck lunches. We used to have them where I used to work a lot, and people would bring the most amazing dishes and we just put it all out on the table and it would be like the most amazing buffet. And because where I worked, we had people from all over the place, we got to try some absolutely amazing food. So yeah, you could do that. Or if you wanted the more traditional type lunch, you could still say to people, could you bring, you know, the potatoes, and could you bring blah blah blah, just so that you're not completely covering the cost. And also then you get to know what people like and what they're actually going to eat. There's no point in buying a great big Christmas cake if nobody likes it, or a pudding, or do you know what I mean? So it's communication, I think, is really helpful in this situation. Tip number 4 is plan ahead. I think if you can get anything now and stash it away before the prices go up even more, gifts, food, anything that you are going to need and you are going to use, and as long as obviously it's got a long date on it, although it's not that far now, is it, to Christmas? But I think planning is going to be the key, and just picking up the odd bits here and there. Although we aren't going to be here at Christmas, I am doing a couple of things for Christmas. So my sister and I are going to meet up, and I think we're going to go to Exeter. I'm not quite sure yet what we're going to do. I'm meeting up with my dad and Sue as well. We're going to go out for lunch. And with my mum, she's going to come round here to stay the night, and we are going to have like a little mini Christmas, like a very traditional one, and I'm quite excited about that. Frugal, of course. So I'll probably get a small chicken and do like a roast that way, but I will probably get the chicken quite soon before the prices go up again and stash that away in the freezer. But yeah, we're also not buying any presents this year, so we've decided that we're not going to buy any presents, apart from me and my mum are going to buy, my mum and Martin, on our little traditional Christmas Day thing, are going to buy one present each, so like a Secret Santa, and we've put a £5 spending limit on it, so it's just a little bit of fun there. Yeah, and I'm going to put a few decorations up. We'll be actually leaving 2 days afterwards, so I'm not going to go too mad, but yeah, I'll be vlogging it, so I'll let you know any preparations that I do beforehand. But I'm planning to try and make as much stuff as I can, but yeah, still be in the festive spirit. So yeah, plan ahead, and if you possibly can afford to buy some things to spread the cost out, then yeah. Last thing I was just going to say, so tip number 5 for Christmassy things is to look around. Don't necessarily buy everything at the supermarket. So for example, if you want things like cinnamon sticks, which make great little decorations, you can tie them up with a bit of old ribbon and tie them on the tree, or I hang them on my dresser sometimes. But if you go in the supermarket and buy them, they'll be quite expensive. I find like Asian style supermarkets are really good for things like that. Things like cloves and cinnamon sticks. And again, with cloves, you can put them into oranges. They make attractive decorations and they smell divine. Things like, you know, sliced oranges and dried oranges and things like that. Look online, buy them in bulk. Look around for things, and I think thinking outside the box a little bit is going to be needed this year, because I noticed when we were in the range the other day, there was a great long great big long box, and it had, I think it was about 5 packets of Jaffa cakes in it, and I can't actually remember how much it was, but it was all Christmas on the box, and it was. But there was also in the Iceland section in the range a box that wasn't Christmas that had 10 packets of Jaffa cakes in it, and it was cheaper. So actually, you know, do you really want to pay £2 or £3 more just because the box has got Christmas on it? You know, could you buy the Jaffa cakes and wrap them up with a Christmassy bow or something and put a few pine cones on it? Just I know all this takes time, but just think about these sort of things, that they do seem to charge the earth just because it's something that's got Christmas on it. So anyway, please let me know in the comments below if you've got any good ideas for frugal Christmas. Do you like Christmas, or do you think it's become too sort of commercialised now? Yeah, let me know your thoughts. I'd be really interested, especially if you've got kids or grandkids. You know, what are you planning to do this year? Maybe you've already done everything. I know a lot of people like to buy cards and things like that in the January sales, and again, that's a brilliant idea. You can get things real bargains then. But if you haven't done that, what are your plans now? Have you started sort of stashing things away, or are you going to leave it to the last minute? Let me know. Thanks so much for watching. See you again soon. Bye.